Hello, and welcome.
Indeed, welcome to the land of Eem.
We are going to be making some magical items today for the Land of Eem RPG. And we actually have this cool little magical item generator on our website that our friend coded for us. And basically there's, millions of combinations that you can pull up from here, and they help us and they inspire us to come up with magical items. And so we're going to be rolling this and then making up rules for these magical items. Right here you see got a fiery trident of reflection. If I roll it, Mountaineer's arrows of the fool. Pestilent toothbrush of the hive. I mean, possibilities are endless. Pestilent toothbrush of the hive. Use a toothbrush. You get a disease and summon a giant wasp. There you go. Magical item done.
That's all it takes, everybody. That's all it takes. Warrior's frock. So Ben, you should show an example. We post on Instagram and our Facebook an example of one of the items that we're designing for a potential future Land of Eem item deck. You should show folks what they kind of look like when they're done, and then we can roll a bunch of items and just come up with the magical effects and have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, George. How you doing, buddy?
Welcome, George. Thanks for joining.
So, here's an example of an item card that we've made. We're going to do these for a select few items. But we think it'd be really cool to have a deck of magical items because makes it a little easier than using a table. But we actually have a giant table full of almost 200 items right now. So right here you've got Vrang's dual axes of the conquering crab. This means +2 damage. Dread. Once per session, the axes can latch onto any creature or object with their pinching claws. And then we have some lore at the bottom for every item. So these were crafted from the severed limbs of a legendary conqueror crabrak named Vrang, which are crab people.
George asks, how do I tap the item cards? Do I just rotate them 45 degrees?
Yes.
Yes, George. Yes, George.
When you use them once per session, you tap them. But we can't call it tap because that's been copyrighted.
So it's called tipping, and it has no effect in the game, but it's visually stunning. I love these magical items. The crab claw axes are my favorite thing. Awesome sauce.
Awesome.
So welcome, everybody. For those of you that didn't hear, we are creating a bunch of magical items using a magical item generator that we created with one of our good friends who coded it for us. It's on the Rickety Stitch website if you want to generate a bunch of random items and come up with your own stuff. Ben is going to put the link up and in the chat so you can click on it and play around with it. But these items we're making today are for the Land of Eem Rickety Stitch tabletop RPG, and it's going to be super fun. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Get another example here. Got Mittens of Obliteration.
There you go.
Powerful beams of energy blast from these mittens, destroying all non-magical, non-living material in a 3-foot wide path up to 20 feet long.
That's a substantial mittens. I mean, you never know. You never know. So one fun thing about the Land of Eem RPG is that Ben and I really wanted to go all out with the powers and the specifically the powers for the magical items. So it was like having a whole new ability, and you can do it a few times with charges, a la any other kind of RPG. But because combat is, secondary in Land of Eem, we thought it'd be fun to have lots of items that have additional properties that could be used for lots of different stuff. And so, you're definitely going to see that as we generate some items with y'all.
Yeah, so let's just roll, and you guys can roll too. The link is in the chats. I can repost it.
Yeah, repost it just in case anybody doesn't see it in the chains.
And if you come upon anything that you think is cool, just post it, and maybe we'll make an item out of it.
Yeah, and there's a chance Ben might draw some items as well and start some sketches and some ideas, because we do want to make a magical item deck, so that you've got easy access to cool, interesting stuff.
Cloven tongue saxophone.
Love it. The bard would love that one. Right off the bat, Smith's homunculus. That's pretty great.
Smith's homunculus. Let's just do it. All right. So here's our big list, and as you can see, we're on 192.
And all of the items have a name, the item type, what the ability is, as well as a sentence of lore, so that there's a little bit of depth to each thing. There's a reason why it's there. I mean, magical item lore is, I really love that stuff, Ben. I think it's awesome. Like, what would you say your top 3 magical items are in literature or movies? Like, what's your top 3? I know there's a bajillion jillion, but
I guess you got to go with Sting.
A classic.
From Lord of the Rings.
Yep. Glows blue when orcs are near.
Yeah, and we actually had a D&D campaign when we were kids where I basically had a sword that was like that, with my thief, halfling thief,
Orlin Schlemmer.
And he had a short sword that glowed when like enemies were around.
That's
and
really
then
cool.
I think if I was like maybe like down to 5 or less hit points, I would do like way more damage or something like that, like +5 damage. It was pretty cool.
And just so you guys know, Ben is talking about a D&D campaign that we played in North Friends when we were in 6th grade. So Ben and I have known each other
20 years ago.
Yeah, well over 20 years. Ben and I have known each other.
Way over 20 years. That was, how old are we? 40?
How old are we? 40? No, we're not 40. Not yet.
How old are you when you're in 6th grade? You're like
12? 12-ish? 12-ish? We started playing Dungeons & Dragons when we were in 4th grade. It was like really rudimentary, but that's when we first started. At least that was my first character. I think I started like a summer after you guys. And then we played essentially ever since. Less frequently now, but still we try to. And so, we play with the same group of people that we did when we were little kids. Like, we've all known each other for decades, and it's weird like that.
It's pretty cool.
So Sting, you're a fan of the classic Lord of the Rings sword Sting, carried by Bilbo and Frodo throughout the legendary adventures.
Yeah. So wait, George is making a terrible Will Smith joke, I guess, from Independence Day. Welcome to Earth. It's not going in the RPG.
You just want to call him out for his creativity. And
so I think a Smith's homunculus should be, maybe it helps you craft items.
I think that's cool. I think that's great. Maybe the homunculus is in the shape of an anvil and it can walk around.
That's cool.
Homunculus. George says that makes way more sense. Could it substitute as a forge or decrease materials needed?
Yes.
Yes. So Land of Eam has crafting rules in it where you can collect components and materials as you travel throughout the map on a hex grid. And so depending on the quality of item or the type of item that you're making, it requires obviously different things to make it, like, the different components or materials. But it also takes different time slots to make it. So if you're going to build a boat, it takes a lot longer than if you're going to make a sword. And so any item that would decrease the time to make things or decrease the materials would be pretty useful if crafting was your thing.
Yeah, so boom, there's an item. This homunculus is a walking forge and decreases materials needed to craft by 1d6.
Classic.
Spiked Club of Corruption. I'm going to pick again. Kobold's Coin Purse of Sneaking.
Love it.
Got an idea?
No, I just love the name.
And we don't have to take these too literally. We can like shape it into an item, like just use it as
right. I mean,
inspiration. So
try to think about some of the legend around it. I think that's what makes it cool. Kobold's Coin Purse of Sneaking. Let's see, what would be useful? What would be useful and cool? So coin purses normally jingle, right?
This makes me think of like pickpocketing.
Yeah. So maybe it increases the likelihood of a successful pickpocket, or increases your sneak ability when you're attempting to do it.
We could just make them gloves.
Yeah.
See what I mean by like just using it as inspiration? Isn't
Yeah, make it gloves and craft. George says, crafted from a kobold's coin purse. This silences your jingling items and adds 1 to stealth.
That's also cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roll with this.
Georgie. Makes me laugh. George, what's your favorite magical item? What is your favorite magical item in movies or literature that just you think's awesome? These gloves bestow the level 1 rascal ability Sticky Fingers.
Yeah, so basically, the Rascal, just a class in our game, has an ability, Sticky Fingers, where you can make up an item that you're stealing. Normally in an RPG, you're like, I want to pickpocket that guy, and then it's up to the GM to decide what's on there. This ability lets you, granted it's a mundane item, you can't like pull a magical item off someone, but you can make up what you need to pickpocket off somebody.
It's really useful. You pickpocket some guards while you're in a dungeon because you need a key to the prison door or something. There's a lot of different cool ways that you can use that ability.
George says he loves the Bags of Holding, a classic. Stuff like a billion items into the Bag of Holding.
Yeah, but
also the portable hole is great.
Right, the portable hole. We had that. We had a portable hole in our high school campaign that we played for years. We played it for like 3+ years, and that thing
hide in there.
Yeah, there was no air in it though, if you recall. Like it was always like we always had a limited ability to hide in it. And it was filled with like thousands of gold and like entire suits of armor. We had all kinds of stuff in there. Really cool magical items. I think magical items are some of the coolest stuff that is in any kind of game because, I don't know, I think they just like capture the fantasticalness of these games.
Yeah.
And there's like,
Well, especially in Land of Eam, where like magic is very limited to the gnome. Like other classes don't have magic because there are no wizards in the world. Magical items are like the thing that are gonna give you these wild powers.
right. And the Land of Eam is all about this glorious golden age that's long past, and the world is kind of rough and you know, it's ruled by the bad guys. For any of you that have read the Rickety Stitch graphic novel series, the world is very gritty despite its cartooniness. And so finding a magical item is a really big deal, and it's really cool. It's sort of the ultimate treasure, really.
I'm gonna roll another item here. Veil of Direction. Etching of Disgust. Chest of Hetch. So Hetch is a mountain in the Land of Eam, and we always kind of use it as a substitute for hell or heck. Like what the Hetch.
What the Hetch, yeah, is used all the time.
It's not particularly inspiring. Heavy Beacon of the Starless Midnight. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. What is a beacon? I love of the Starless Midnight. That's really cool.
A beacon to alert people.
Maybe it's a...
you send out an alert. It only works at midnight.
Like
a star.
A medieval version of a flare gun.
Or like the bat signal.
Yeah, yeah. George shares that he just rolled Goo of the Emperor. I love that. Goo of the Emperor.
So what would the rules be for a bat signal?
Let's see. Maybe it's to those people that know what they're looking for. So it sort of requires some coordinating with NPCs or other characters. Can see it. B shares a great idea. The tasty bacon of the starveless mite.
Hey, B. B is in my other D&D group.
Oh, hey, what's going on?
Thanks for
coming by. We got a regular
by.
celebrity over here, you know what I mean?
We're just making magic items right now, B. Probably guessed that. Beam a signal of light in the night sky. Anyone looking for the signal
will find you.
Will be able to find you.
That kind of reminds me of Susan's horn in the old Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe books, where if she blows on the horn, help will always find their way to her, which I think is cool. I've always loved that magical item. I thought it was really awesome. And it always makes me laugh that they get it from Santa Claus, from like Father Christmas in that weird scene.
Yeah.
Never really been into that, but it makes me laugh.
That kind of ruins the immersion for me.
It does. It does. It's like, and we got this Vorpal sword from the Easter Bunny. He was there, and Gandalf was there, and Lieutenant Mahoney was there.
You know what it also reminds me of? Sorry to cut off your police academy.
My police academy rambling.
But our first comic, The Shade Hunter, he had a horn that summoned a temple of paladins to him. And we never finished the comic, so we never got to use it.
It's true.
hallowed gem, kind of ho-hum. Comb of beast flight. It's kind of cool. Run a comb through a beast and it can fly now.
Yeah, it's like a hairdo that sprouts wings. It's a flock of seagulls. George says that's amazing.
Run this comb through the hair of a beast to make it fly for an hour. And of course, that would be useful for your mount, which the knight errant has.
Let's roll some more items. For those of you just joining, we are creating some magical items with our Land of Eam item generator that a friend of ours coded with us. And so all this is, you can go onto the Rickety Stitch website. Ben will post the link here. And you can click on it.
There are literally millions of combinations because we have 700 like mundane items with like almost 700 prefixes and almost 700 suffixes.
Yeah, so it's pretty extensive, and not everything will be the best idea ever because it's a random generator, but a lot of them are super fun. Like this one, it's just all it says is unknowable radish, which I think, you know, is maybe cursed, Ben. I think that if you touch it, you lose your faculties for an hour because you've looked into the unknowable beyond that is this radish's mind.
Yes. George is saying reptilian caulk boots. Caulk boots. What are caulk boots?
No idea.
Just like
I have very little memory writing all hundreds of these.
uh-huh.
Oh, they have like metal nails through them. Oh, they can help you climb trees. That's cool. That's awesome.
What if you can turn into a lizard?
How about just your feet turn into lizard feet? You scramble over anything like a crazy iguana. Scrambles. Oh, scrambles. It's a fantastic restaurant where you can get scrambled eggs any time of the day. Any time at all.
I don't know.
I don't know either. My favorite magical footwear ever was the winged boots that my character back in middle school, again, another character in middle school, was a dwarf named Bastion Cott, and Ben's character was my character's brother. We had all kinds of crazy magical items. My favorite one ever was these winged boots that I could put on and fly. And so I would be flying around like as a dwarven warrior with like a battle axe, and Ben would be flying around in his apparatus of Qualish.
Yes. What's another great magical item?
Yeah, the apparatus of Qualish.
It's basically a barrel that could go underwater. Can it fly? I can't remember.
I thought it could fly, or maybe it couldn't fly.
But it had all these appendages and like levers inside, and you basically just had to figure out what everything did.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was like a Dungeons and Dragons Iron Man suit.
Yes.
It's totally cool.
Are we going to use unknowable radish?
Yes. I just don't know what it is yet. Evan Ford says, a crab tank. Yes. Yes. I love crab tank.
That's essentially what the apparatus of Kolish was, right?
Yeah, right. Right. It was classic.
Rapscallion salve of the will-o-wisp.
George says the Copper Tome of Magic Find. Asks if it's too boring. I'm not particularly inspired by it, but Magic Find is interesting in a RPG.
B says you won't know till you bite it.
Ah, yes, the unknowable radish. Our petty minds cannot understand. Inside that radish. Gandhi's gadget. That's cute.
Gandhi is a figure in the land of Eam who P. Gandhi Ganderman.
P. Gandhi Ganderman.
The gnome who has created a vast encyclopedia of knowledge.
Actually, at the end of the Rickety Stitch graphic novels, there's like a little section in the back that's got lore, and all of the lore is from his encyclopedia, P. Gandhi Ganderman.
Charismatic tablet of riposte.
So you get when you get those millions of computations, man. It's millions of items that could be created from this. It's crazy. It's nuts. Canoe of the Dog Nose. I kind of like this. Canoe with a fantastic sense of smell. How useful is that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Who would want a Canoe of the Dog Nose?
Maybe it's a dog figurine.
A dog figurine.
You can turn into a canoe, and it's shaped like a dog, like doggy paddling.
That's fantastic, Ben. It's a brilliant idea. A doggy paddling canoe. You don't have to row it. Won't get tired. And it's always a good boy. Ben, what are the weirdest magic aside from the unknowable radish? Like, what's the weirdest magical item you've ever seen playing a game? Can you think of one? And comment, guys, if you guys have a crazy magical item that you've encountered, we'd love to know what it is. I really like the wacky ones.
Well, B and I, we just played in a game last week where there was this book, and if you read it, it's basically like a horrible, 50 Shades of Grey novel, but you couldn't stop reading it, and you'd have to make a check, or it would like take away wisdom or intelligence.
It's like a cursed page turner.
It was actually, I don't remember the name, but it was created by Gary Gygax himself.
Oh, no wonder you can't put it down. Good old Gary Gygax. To think, what's the weirdest magical item I ever saw? There's a lot of weird ones in 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons that are like super specific. They're like the most specific magical items I've ever seen. It's like when you're talking to a Beidzu and you happen to be in a restaurant during a full moon, you can do this. And it's like, all right, that's really, really situational. That's the kind of thing where you have like 6,000 magical items and everybody takes 40 minutes just looking at the things that they could possibly do in a situation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's cool and funny, but I don't know. It's like too much, too specific.
I think one of my favorite D&D items is pretty simple, but it's the Cloak of the Bat.
Cloak of the Bat.
Where you can turn into a bat at night, or you can also fly at night.
Yeah. Cloak of the Bat's awesome. Evan Ford says, I like the Belt of Dwarven Kind. The beard growth component is hilarious, and I wish there were more items with stuff like that. Yeah, that's great. The Belt of Dwarven Kind. That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
B says, is the item we were talking about, the Gary Gygax item, is the Dark Grimoire of something. All right. More rolls. Forgotten Scourge, Projectile Ball and Chain. It's not bad.
That's not bad.
Bow of Rending. Pretty gruesome.
It's merciless for the land.
Painter's Morning Star.
Depending on how you interpret that, that could also be ruthless.
Just paint the ground red.
Yeah. It's not magical at all, just really heavy.
Harmonica of Muckwalking. That's interesting because we already have
that is
a banjo of Muckwalking.
Yeah.
Which I will show once I find it. Because I did a picture of it.
So for those of you that are just joining us, we're creating some magical items for our RPG, The Land of Eam, that takes place in the Rickety Stitch world, if you're familiar with the graphic novel series. And on our website, ricketystitch.com, we've got a magical item generator with millions of different possibilities. And so we're using it for inspiration, because not all of them work, because there's like so many different combinations that it can get weird sometimes, but also hilarious. And so we're in the process of rolling some magical items. Here, Ben showing some of the magical items that are going to go into our deck.
This is the Muck Plucker, and it's the same thing as the harmonica of Muckwalking, but it's the banjo of Muckwalking. You can walk over mucky water and muddy terrain as if it were solid land while playing this banjo.
Very cool. Very cool. And that would be particularly useful in the Mucklands realm, which is our first sandbox that we're working on, where there's a big region of swamp called the Quagmash.
George has got the enfeebling shampoo of the old fog.
Magical shampoo. We gotta find a way to have a magical shampoo, Ben. It's just gotta be done.
I think we have something in there already. Unicorn shampoo.
Oh, you're right. We do have the unicorn shampoo.
I think this would be cool if we change shampoo, because the old fog is a reference to the Gloom King.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the Gloom King uses shampoo.
No, I don't think that word is in the Gloom King's vocabulary. For those of you that don't know, the Gloom King is the primary villain of the Rickety Stitch series. And he is ever present in all of our different projects as the big bad. Vulcan don't have teeth. Waterproof sand. Isn't it all waterproof?
What about enfeebling sand?
That's cool.
The old fog.
That's cool. Kind of have as like a Sandman sprinkle over you to fall asleep vibe, but this is enfeebling.
Yeah.
Evan says, what if he did use shampoo? And that's why he wears the hat. I think that's a Lich reference to Rickety Stitch Book 1. The Road to Eppley. Love it.
So here's a fun fact, and a lot of people think this, and we'll give you the download here. And we've talked about this a lot because we thought, I guess it's fine that people think this because, then they'll be surprised later. But we've actually intended for people to know that the Gloom King is not the Lich that you see in Rickety Stitch Book 1.
Yeah, the Gloom King is actually physically not featured in the books yet.
Right. The Lich is his minion. Like, the Gloom King is the creator of Liches, and they're basically like an extension of his power.
Of his evil powers. Also, to answer questions about Rickety Stitch Book 3. So we do have news about Rickety Stitch Book 3. It has been delayed because of current world of events, as you can imagine. But the book is actually fully complete, and we'll be keeping you up to date when we know the release date for Book 3. But until then, you'll just have to reread Book 1 and 2, listen to all the music, check out all the lore, and join the beta of the Rickety Stitch RPG as soon as it's ready. Oh, classic.
Emaciation, is that a word?
I think so. It should be. It is now. It's canon. Thanks, Evan. Evan says he's such a fan of all of our work and that he can't wait to read the series with his son. That's fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Last week we were doing some sketches of new characters that take place in the Rickety Stitch's world, and maybe next week we'll do some more art streaming, and you can join us and chat and see what it's like to draw these guys.
Yeah. George is saying, pulsing battle axe of the Shampoo.
Pulsing battle axe. It's like makes me think of like a Star Wars like vibro axe, which is kind of cool.
I'm gonna repost the link to the magic item generator.
Oh yeah.
Other people want to click on it and give us some stuff that they're rolling so we can make an item out of it.
And totally feel free to use this random generator for your own games. I mean, just make stuff up. Like it's a great creative tool to just get an idea and then let it roll, like riff on that idea until it's great.
So in the land of Veem, Shadows are mythological creatures who are worshipped by certain people. Not a lot of people. They're sort of from a bygone era, but a lot of the constellations in the sky are interpreted as shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that can lead us in a direction, something to do with the stars, pulsing stars, star power.
Pulsing.
This glowing axe.
This glowing axe
Can blind.
shines as bright as a constellation, George shares. Evan Ford. First one I rolled is Charming Trunks of the Wandering Monster. We will get that one next, but that's absolutely going to be an item. That's fantastic. Wandering Monster. So for those of you that are just joining us, we're creating some magical items for the Rickety Stitch role-playing game, The Land of Eam. We're using a magical item generator that's on our website. And it is, there's millions of different possibilities for it. It's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of prefixes and suffixes and mundane items that can all mix together to come up with wacky, fun names. And so we're using that as a genesis point to invent some new stuff. And you guys are welcome to use it and click on stuff and come up with cool, funny things. And feel free to ask us anything. I mean, we're just hanging out, making magical items, and chilling with you guys, so it's super cool.
So got the battle axe, the pulsing battle axe of the Shampoo. Once per session, this glowing axe can blind all goons or one henchman for 1d4 rounds. And those are enemy types that we have in the game. Goons are like your weakest, henchmen are the next level, and then champions are elite enemies. Like a lich would be a champion. Charming Trunks of the Wandering Monster. Got so in the game we also have a wandering monster table like classic D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe with these charming trunks you can summon one of those monsters, and since they're charming trunks, that monster will be your friend.
Love it. They're charming. It's so charming. Evan Ford asks, is there a Kickstarter up for the game? Not yet, Evan, but we are planning to do a Kickstarter once the game has finished its beta testing. We're probably, only a couple of weeks away from releasing the core rulebook, as well as a kind of a starter adventure that people can try out and play the game. For those of you that don't know anything about the Land of Eam, it is the RPG associated with the Rickety Stitch universe, the Rickety Stitch graphic novel series. And the game's focus is on creative solutions to RPG adventure problems, so that you're not always forced to fight monsters, but there's all these abilities that help you get around situations, escape situations, become victorious. Of course, there is combat in the game. But it's just not the primary focus. So it's a little bit different, but we do intend to launch a Kickstarter for it, and just stay tuned, and we'll be announcing it pretty soon. Yeah,
we're still doing playtesting currently.
Yeah,
before we open up the playtesting to the wider world. So Evan,
we're also working on the sandbox. I mean, we're working on the Muckland sandbox with 5 realms and dozens of factions and quests and NPCs and random tables, so that it makes it real easy to jump in and or just use the campaign setting for your own games.
Yeah, but definitely keep an eye out for the open beta, and we'd love to get your feedback.
Mm-hmm.
All-knowing hairnet of usefulness.
How all-knowing is the hairnet? like, should we? Could it be like a forgotten god? It's like, was the hairnet of a Shampoo? The beard net, I should say. I don't know. I'm not particularly inspired by this one. It would take a lot of leaping to make it work.
I'm gonna keep it in the back pocket because I like all-knowing hairnet. I think.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. All-knowing hairnet.
Powder of larbies make.
That's hilarious. So that's particularly funny to Ben and I because Larby was the name of one of my own characters. Was that 6th grade too? It's like another middle school campaign.
Might have been with Orlin Schlemrick, who we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, right. So Ben and I, for those of you that don't know, Ben and I have known each other for well over 20 years. We've been making comics and playing Dungeons and Dragons and games and all that stuff since we were little kids. And back in the 6th grade, we had some D&D characters, and we were just, waxing poetic a few minutes ago about what it was like. And one of my characters' name was a gnome alchemist named Larby Flabisham, and so now he exists in the land of Eam, and that's pretty common for Ben and I. We've got lots of stuff from our campaigns. A lot of this stuff is a lot of the land of Eam really reflects on how Ben and I like to play Dungeons and Dragons, and so there's a lot of whimsy and lots of tone shifts between really, really serious and really goofy, and the creative, like I said before, the creative solutions instead of just always having to hack and slash your way out of problems.
So, from GMing the game a bunch, I've noticed that people want to blow stuff up a lot.
Speaking of creative solutions that are not combat,
but they're always scared about it, and they should be. They're always scared about like collateral damage, because the Dungeoneer has an ability where they can blow stuff up. Also, some people, you can start out with having some like an explosive charge if you're from they used to be forest, which is all about mining and stuff. So maybe this explosive powder kind of limits collateral damage. Like it you use it and it only targets exactly what you want it to.
That's cool. That's a super useful item. That could be used in a lot of different ways. And for those of you wondering, yes, there are 202 now magical items. Ben and I have a love of just creating random tables of NPCs and magical items and adventure hooks and stuff.
Okay.
Back to the random item generator.
Tamer's Quiver of Climbing.
It's a lot to unpack.
I like Tamer's Quiver.
So do I.
Like an arrow that tames a beast.
I also kind of like Quiver of Climbing. Like maybe the arrows can be shot into a solid surface and you can use them to climb up. It won't break or something crazy.
It's true.
Or like maybe like ladder arrows or something. It's like something that you could shoot and it would make it easy to climb up something that's not just like an arrow with a rope around it. Tamer's Quiver is also great though, because there's lots of creatures and critters in the land of Eam that you may not want to tangle with, like riversaurs and gators and other ramgors and other giant monstrous creatures that could be dangerous. But if you could tame them, that would save everybody a lot of headache.
Quiver of Climbing. Tamer's Arrow. 2 items. Look at that. We got two items already.
Look at that. See, this is how this random generator was meant to work. Just give us a couple of wacky ideas and we'll come up with something. George shares another one that he just rolled. The Dwimmercrafty Case of the Empress. That could be a neat portable hole type item, actually. And for those of you that want to use the random item generator, it's there's a link in the comments, or should be a couple of links in the comments that link directly to it. If not, it's at ricketystitch.com/RPG.
So what would that quiver climbing do?
That's a good question. I hadn't really fully thought it out.
Well, I like the idea of, shooting an arrow.
That like unfolds into a ladder.
Maybe like a zip line or something.
Yeah, like a zip line or like a ladder, or some. Evan Ford asks, "The quiver grows legs and helps you climb." Like the quiver is really good at climbing. You may not be able to get into the castle, but if you just tell that quiver to do it, it'll be up there, and then and then the quiver can lower down a rope for you.
Y'all do Dwemer. So Dwemer, we actually named a character Dwemer in our new upcoming series. That is not. It's still in development.
Yeah, we've got a new upcoming series. It's really early in development. We finished a script and we've outlined a story. If you happened to join us last week, we actually started designing characters from that book. But we'll do that again. You'll get to see some of the new stuff we're working on to tide everybody over before book 3 comes out. Rickety Stitch book 3.
Do you want to come up with something for Dwemer Crafty Case of the Empress?
So I thought that might be an interesting portable hole type thing, or maybe we could replace case with something. So in our world, Dwemer Crafty means like magical, essentially. Since the land of Eam is pretty low magic in terms of there are no wizards, there's, you'll find witches and magicians maybe, and there's magical items out there. But like in Rickety Stitch, the golden age is sort of past, and now everybody's just trying to get by with what they can. Garnet of digging. Metallic rubber duck of the footman.
Metallic rubber.
Evan Ford says, "Today is amazing lore spoilers and a new series." Yeah, we're working on lots of stuff, Evan. We're working on more Rickety stories, new series that takes place in Rickety's world. Like a third, even further in development, shadow project that takes place in Rickety's world. And then, Ben and I just love to mess around and make the RPG stuff. And that's probably going to be the next thing that we for sure release. And who knows, like it may even have some short stories in it and other stuff, but we're looking forward to sharing more when we can.
Misleading brush of the unicorn. Hunter's splint cuirass of holding. Winged barding of misdirection.
It's like a hair away from being extremely powerful. It's like, turn your horse into a Pegasus. Unicorn tchotchke. It's only purchasable from Krogland. It's a Slurpee cup. Sorry. And you drink the juice out of the horn. See, it designs itself. Banner of Piercing.
That got dark. It's like a real unicorn horn.
I didn't say it was a real one. I imagined like compressed plastic. It's like something Disneylandy, like really, like those crazy poison apples that they introduced a couple of years ago. You drink out of the poison apple from Snow White. Wild stuff. Wild stuff. Banner of Piercing. Oh, and for folks that are asking about the little drawing there, Ben, if you want to switch over to the random generator.
Unicron.
This is the Bogworld Junkmonger character, and he appears in both Rickety Stitch Book 1 and 2. And the fun thing about him is he's got this gigantic pile of items and junk on his back. And the gag between Ben and I is that his junk pile is filled with like magnificent magical items as well. He just doesn't discriminate between one item or the next. So we thought he'd be a good like patron image for a magical item generator.
Yes, all of these items can be found on him. He's just hauling a bunch of legendary items and has no idea. He's got overalls of roaring.
They're super loud.
Glorious finger of shadow walking.
That sounds awesome. That's awesome. It should be one of those like goth full finger rings. You put it on. You know what I mean? Like the ones that are always like pewter dragony.
You get it like Hot Topic.
Yeah, and like everybody at Gen Con has one on. It's like those guys. George Higgins says, Unicron the World Eater. He's a heck of a magic item.
Yeah.
Heck of a magic item. Travel, maybe walk through the shadows, like become a shadow or something.
I wonder if we've already done something like that when it came out.
I think we might. I seem to recall writing one.
What if it's just simpler, like the D&D hide in shadows, move silently and hide in shadows?
Yeah. Yeah. Always useful. It's always useful to sneak around, you know what I mean? Sneaking around.
It is. So I liked the idea of a unicorn horn, like that's been removed from a unicorn. And sort of, maybe it's cursed.
I dig that. Or maybe it's like part of a unicorn's horn, like it's been chopped up and sold, and now each part of it's cursed. It's a tiny unicorn carved it from a unicorn horn keychain. I mean, tchotchke makes me think it's like gaudy. It's like,
Yeah. So what would it do?
what would a unicorn's curse do? That's a good question.
Well, you've defiled a pure magical creature.
That protects woodlands and brings life. So maybe the curse is you begin to decay like a zombie. That seems pretty extreme, though.
It should give you like maybe it gives you like plus treasure hunting or something.
Mm-hmm. With a chance of the treasure. How many cursed items do we really have, Ben? Not too many, right? But they're there. A handful. Like it's like maybe it's plus 20 treasure hunting, but it greatly increases the chance that it'll be cursed. What you find will be cursed. I don't know. That's hard to do.
Yeah, given the tables, it's hard to.
Yeah.
branches. Evan says branches, roots, and vines would probably go out of their way to trip or mess with someone who killed a unicorn. I like that idea of like
that's
the
a great
world
idea.
being against you.
Yeah, like -2 wilderness or something. like a substantial. You can't parlay with animals, and you're -2 wilderness, and you're
Trying to say, like, because the game is like a narrative game where you're interpreting dice rolls.
Yeah.
Like a cool thing would be when you roll like a low roll, like you fail, because the GM is always trying to like look for opportunities to incorporate the world and interpret like how you're failing.
Right.
It'd be cool if we wrote it in such a way that like you roll a 1 and this is how the world is against you.
Yeah.
It's a little tricky to word.
Well, it's 12:03, Ben. We've come to the end of our hour.
Ew.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us. We were making magical items today using the Land of Eam magical item generator. We'll share that link one last time before we sign off. Gotta get that last.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Can't leave them hanging. Yeah, we made magical items today. Thanks everybody for joining us. It was super fun. We feel free to use this magical item generator. It's at ricketystitch.com/RPG. It's a great way to spur new ideas and create items for your games. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, and stay tuned for the open beta of the RPG, probably coming in the next month or so.
Yeah.
We really want to get your feedback. We want you to play test it. It's going to be free, and it's like a huge game that you'll be able to get for free and play.
Yep.
There won't be art in it. That's the one downside, but that's something you can look forward to with the finished product. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
Evan says, y'all are awesome. I'm going to keep coming back. Well, thank you, Evan. We hope you come back, and we hope that everybody comes back. And we will see you next week.
Yeah, awesome.
All righty. Fare thee well. Stay safe.